Well. There was talk of this happening in alpha, but it appears that Amazon Game Studios really was set on expanding even more into the magical aspect of the game. After a few tweets, some mentioned details in an article, and our own speculation, we now have a discussion that pertains to the combat and crafting system of the game and how it ties into magic. This one, of course, is always an exciting topic, and there's so many different ways they can go about this. So to start, let's talk about what we know. So as you may have already seen, Amazon Game Studios put out a tweet 2 days ago that went a little bit more into the magic aspect of the game. To quote it directly, it says that not all weapons are steel and wood. Master the arcane arts to help push back the corrupted. And this of course is a big deal for all players. During the alpha, Amazon Game Studios was said to be working on it, but I'm sure many of us had not imagined that it would be into the game before launch. We did have a bit of magic back in the alpha, although it was only through the form of healing. You can see the healing gauntlet being used in a few gameplay videos like this one, and also the animation pose that Amazon takes the picture for the tweet with does look like the characters using the gauntlet as well. Now the part that becomes interesting is not only have we seen the gauntlet being showcased, one part that you may have missed about the New World Dev Diary is that there's actually 2 points of interest that showcase what appears to be a staff weapon. If you look at this clip here, you can sort of see this wooden weapon on this person's back that seems to resemble a quarterstaff, but it's hard to make it out at first. At first glance, I thought it might be a musket or a spear, and it could actually be a different weapon altogether, but a little later in the diary we get a look at this amazing little secret. Here you can see clearly that the character on the left is wielding what can only be depicted as a magic staff. It doesn't look like a simple quarterstaff that would be completely symmetrical. The longer length curve in the weapon design 100% makes it seem like this is more of a wizard type weapon, and also the animation that they're wielding it in. And it makes me wonder if this could be a hat tip to how they've expanded the magic system. And Amazon has been playing things pretty close to the chest with this one, but we have had a couple bits of detail slip through the cracks from them. On the 30th of December, shortly after they posted their snippet regarding the magic, one courageous user on Twitter asked them, can it push back other players if needed also? Clearly wondering about if there would be some type of spell or school of magic that could harness the power of the force, or in other terms, Fusro Da, to which Amazon replied that absolutely, it could be. Now this alone would suggest that we have different types of magic to harness besides healing, but the part that really convinces me is something that we've already went over in the MMORPG article we discussed a few days ago. I've searched through each and every article from now until February of 2019, and this article is the only one that mentions even a sliver of a thing about this, aside from one other one. But you may or may not have noticed how one detail in this article contained this in it. Weapons are not the only thing you will be able to use in New World. I think that's what they meant there. But then they continue to say that as Azoth imbues and amplifies the power around it, it gives the Eternal Isles the opportunity for magic to exist. Players will be able to join different schools of magic, as in plural. As in we're about to get our Skyrim magic and Gandalf the Grey on. And on top of that, even more sweet details are included in the next part. It states that hey, even us simple and humble crafters can get a slice of the magic pie, gaining the ability to imbue weapons with power to create wonderful and magical artifacts. Could this piece of detail from MMORPG's article mean that we will get a taste or a whole edition of the famous schools of magic? I would suspect that we will at the very least have access to fire and healing magic, but what else could this mean for the game's combat and how it's perceived? It's no secret that there are many out there that do like the look of New World graphically, but are much less excited about the combat aspect, specifically the melee. I think that the range part in terms of muskets and archery is completely fine, and people don't mind that as much, because I mean it's usually not that hard to get that part to an acceptable state. But could the addition of real magic change the perspective that people have about the game, and maybe even raise more excitement for trying it out? Amazon Game Studios has done an excellent job with creating a game that at first glance looks like it's worthy of being a successor to the sandbox genre, and that's whether or not we believe it to be a sandbox. But what I really want to see is what the magic itself looks like. The particle effects, the sound effects, something to that degree. If this is something that just acts as more of a side addition to the combat, then that would be a shame, but I would still use it from time to time as a player. But if this has been expanded to the point where someone could specialize in only using magic during a territory war and open world combat, then that would be something we really need to see. I hope that in the upcoming dev diaries or gameplay showcases we get an idea of how this aspect is going to work and play a part in our journey. Now that we know that staves are in the game, we will have to see what can be done with them, and the rest of the magic aspect. There was a small detail in a different article for Magic that went into the equipment aspect of the game, stating that if you wanted to, attribute-wise, if you wanted to be on the front lines, you could invest in strength and of course hit points. If you are planning on being a range character, you might be more interested in maxing out your dexterity and armor. But if you are a magic-based user, it seems that instead, you will be able to invest in what they describe as a spirit attribute. This acts as an enhance to both your magic and whatever magical equipment you've got on, which sounds really nice to say the least. It might also be a hat tip to how they're expanding the magic system. One last part to go with that is that in that very same MMORPG article, it actually goes over a bit of an affinity system. It's unsure right now if that will play a huge part in the game, but what it says specifically is that an evil player could make use of the legendary resource that runs through the land called Azoth to become an evil overlord, while a good character could then use it to become a strong hero for Eternum. It's of course completely unsure if this will have anything to do with magic, but this part, alongside how we've seen different points of interest throughout the world in both the alpha footage and dev diaries, maybe there's new places of power that could either enhance or teach you new methods of magic. These are all the details I was able to dig up on the magic so far, but if there were any hidden out there, be sure to include them in the comments below. And on top of that, let us all know what type of magic you want to see in the game's launch or its future. Even if it's you planning on turning your best friend into a chicken, or summoning a giant meteor right down on top of a settlement during a faction war, we want to know it all. And with that folks, thank you very much for joining, and I hope you have a wonderful night or day. Happy New Year!